So good day, everyone. Welcome to the Arcana in the Feed, Navigating Internet Culture with Jungian Archetypes. It's a workshop by Hermetechnics Incorporated. And before I get to the introduction of our speakers, let me first thank to the festival partners, namely Abacus Foundation, Slovak Arts Council, and the City of Prague for supporting this event. This event is being recorded and it's live streamed on YouTube, so there might be some people following us there, and everyone should be aware of that. During and after this event, you can also make use of our Discord channel. We will share the link in the chat. There is a dedicated channel to this event where Hermetechnics will be also posting some resources, so definitely go there. And you can also use Discord to hang out later in the voice channel bars where you can be talking with people after the event ends. And okay, so now I would like to introduce our speakers. So Hermetechnics is an imaginary Silicon Valley corporation, and their mission is to download ancient knowledge from the cloud itself and use magic to create value for their shareholders. Hermetechnics was established as a critical investigation into techno-occultism, Silicon Valley startup culture, and the role of esoteric traditions in a surveillance capitalist society. Behind Hermetechnics are Jakub Fiala and Karin Wallis. Jakub is a Berlin-based artist and creative technologist. He specializes in algorithmic, sonic, and interactive arts and machine learning. And Karin is a programmer with focus on natural language processing. She has several art and experimental music projects, mostly centered around various flavors of Western esotericism. So welcome, Hermetechnics. Great you can be here and that you came to share the knowledge with us. And I won't take any more of your time. The stage is yours. So I hope I didn't took too much of your introductions.
Not at all. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's really great to be here. So let us just start the screen share. Yeah.
All right. So hello, everyone. And it's a huge pleasure for us to be once again on the Uroboros Festival. And for those who don't know us yet, let us do a brief introduction about Hermetechnics. So who are we? So Hermetechnics is an imaginary Silicon Valley corporation. And since 2019, we work 24/7 from our California headquarters. And our goal is to use magic to create value for our shareholders, harness the ancient wisdom of the occult, and deploy it directly into the cloud.
But before we start, we'd just like to briefly touch on the term occultism, because we realize it's something that people maybe don't come into contact that much. So the adjective occult comes from the Latin occultus, which means invisible. But in Western culture, this word has much more concrete and controversial connotations. And there are plenty of definitions of occultism, but it's perhaps most useful to define it by that which it isn't. That is, occultism can be defined as any kind of knowledge which doesn't fit into the dominant scientific social worldview. However, if we look at the content itself of most occult traditions, we find many familiar phenomena which are sort of known to an average 21st century human. So occultism is more than just a bookshop section or a commodity from New Age festivals. We can't really eliminate it from the societal discourse, not scientifically and not sort of culturally. And it is in these times in which human consciousness yearns for some kind of deeper self-knowledge that we discover these occult themes again and again. And this is where Hermetechnics comes in. So in times of complex social change, the internet superpowers of Silicon Valley determine almost every aspect of modern life. But they do so in a world of catastrophic climate change, the rise of surveillance capitalism, and the Fisherian slow cancellation of the future. And predictive machine learning models, corporate philosophy, the startup founder myths, and these archetypes are sort of arising from the chaos of social networks, and they're sold to us as pure technology, something very rational, the ultimate rational good that is sort of above us. And the rationality of this white male dominated industry is not to be questioned. But instead, Hermetechnics builds on Lewis Mumford's idea of technics, which is, as opposed to technology, it's this sort of this multifaceted thing that exists among us. And if we are to critique Silicon Valley and its power structures, we must discuss those aspects of the technological world which are taken and often stolen from the ancient occult traditions. So by combining these concepts from these disparate worlds, we attempt to partially reclaim and even decolonize these techniques from their capitalist realist limitations. So yeah, today the agenda is basically we're going to start with a talk during which we'll introduce you to Jung, Carl Gustav Jung, and the concept of archetypes. We're going to then look at archetypes in the algorithmic process. We're going to learn about the Fool's Journey and the Tarot. And then we're going to do a case study and show some examples of these mechanisms that we're going to describe. And after that, we're going to have about an hour long or a 75-minute, depends, workshop. And after that, we'll have a round of presentations of what people have been up to. Right. So in the first half of the 20th century, the famous psychologist Carl Gustav Jung formulated his approach to analytical psychology, which kind of diverged from the prevalent viewpoint of his one-time friend Sigmund Freud. And while Freud described the interplay between the conscious and the unconscious within the limits of a single human psyche, Jung posited that there are psychological objects and processes which are in fact shared across societies. And he understood these objects as part of the collective unconscious. And within this framework, he described the concept of archetypes in scientific terms. And the Jungian worldview, while it's still influential in modern psychology, has been somewhat relegated to the fringes of science and into various mystical and esoteric canons. And we might say there's a good reason for that, because the trouble with Jung's scientific work is that in analyzing the collective unconscious, he relied on the immediate experience of a phenomenon as a unique and singular event. And this meant that his various therapies are not actually replicable. A therapy would only work in a certain way for a certain person at a certain time. So it wasn't possible to verify its scientific correctness. And for this reason, we want to focus on the legacy of Jung as a mystic, a capacity in which his work takes on a whole new depth. And in particular, Jung's striving towards individuation maps very well to the mystical process of gnosis, which means the fullness of self-knowledge and some kind of clarity of being. And this leads us to the style of philosophy we call phenomenology, which means understanding the world through how we or other people experience it. And this is usually not sufficient for a rigorous scientific study, but when used correctly, phenomenology can reveal to us what we would otherwise easily overlook in objective reality. So keeping in mind this Gnostic approach, we can now look at Jung's concept of the archetypes themselves.
Whoa. So now to the archetypes themselves. So what are these things? So Jung was saying that just as the human body is made of organs with all their long evolutionary history behind them, so he expects that the mind is organized in a similar way. So these are some evolutionary formed, inborn forms which are present in the psyche. And we can see their manifest in universality of dream symbolism or recurring patterns in ancient mythologies. And Jung called these some primordial images or archaic remnants from where the name archetypes come. So the archetype is not a certain symbol or a motive, but a tendency of human mind to form this representation. So it's not a trickster Hermes, but rather it's the fact that almost in every mythology around the world, from the hero cycles of the Winnebago natives in North America to Faustian Mephisto in canon of Christianity, there is a certain representation of a trickster and the trickster story. So the archetypes are an instinctive trend of the mind. It's a matter of nature rather than nurture, according to Jung. So based on this archetypal theory, we can say that our inner motives spring from some sort of deeper source that is not made by our consciousness and is not really under its control. So it's a complex interplay of inborn archetypal forces, and our conscious mind sort of sits on the top and is trying to make sense out of all this mess. And yes, it's true, we've been gifted a certain amount of willpower and ability to go against our animalistic impulses, but let's take a look at what is the catch there. So first, as in every good introduction to an esoteric talk, we need to have a quick look at the relation of microcosm to microcosm. So on the left side, you can see it's the outside world, the external reality, physical or digital manifestation of the objective reality. On the right side is our psyche with all its internal processes. And we will look closer at this mechanism of mirroring of our inner processes in the outside world and the outside affecting our inner state in a similar manner. So this brings us to a famous formula, as above, so below, indicating the direction from left to right on this picture. And that way, the world is and our insights become. So even though our mind is not tabula rasa, the outside world can trigger in us different aspects of its archetypal nature. I believe this is exactly the problem discussed so extensively in relation to the free speech, 8chan, Twitter bans, cancellations, cyberbullying, and so on. It's the outside world affecting the inside of an individual and this relation. So essentially, what we're going to be working with is the idea that removing the trigger enables a recovery. So the same way as you hide pictures of a person you're trying to forget, and you don't look at the food ads when you're on a diet, and so on. The truth is that if you are in a constantly in an environment which is constantly filled with hate, this will trigger some changes in a psyche. So let's look at the practical example of the other direction, as below, so above. Related to what we mentioned about our consciousness just being on the top of the iceberg of the psyche, as anyone who ever battled against themselves in trying not to yield to some destructive temptation will know how much effort this takes. So the story goes, nope, I will not text my toxic ex. And a couple of drinks later, the animal instincts grasps you, and bam, there you are with sweet, hey, what's up, sent and seen. And this happens again and again and again. And then you finally get yourself maybe to start a therapy. And you realize that all of that is fault of one of your parents, and you have a few miserable sessions, and then some healing starts, and maybe a couple of months later, you're going to happily laugh in the face of all the red flags type inviting you for drinks. So in order to keep our karma points in green, we need to pinpoint the problem and try and heal these archetypes. We need to attack the problem on both fronts, from the inside out, heal our own psyche, and outside in, remove or at least enable us some sort of safe navigation through a sea of both healthy and toxic manifestations of a certain phenomena. And especially those phenomena which has the ability to trigger some archetypal response in us.
All right, so to help us visualize this mechanism, we can use something we've called the archetypal prism. And so the prism is composed of these two planes which meet at a single point. And one plane, we've got in Jungian terms, the individual unconscious, while the other is the collective unconscious. And we will be using these two terms, but we may apply them to other dualities, such as the Hermetic above versus below, or inside versus outside. And ultimately, we want to apply this duality to online versus AFK. So following the example of Legacy Russell's Glitch Feminism manifesto, we do not use the term IRL, so in real life, because we acknowledge the online plane to be just as real as the other one. Instead, we borrow the gaming term AFK, away from keyboard. And so as phenomenologists, we start by observing that a number of phenomena occur in the collective unconscious. For example, in the feeds of our social networks, and as the individual experiences these phenomena, they cause a resonance in, or recognition in the individual unconscious. And we can perceive this resonance as thoughts, emotions, daydreams, but we also completely can have them as unconscious or subconscious effects. And likewise, the phenomena occurring in the individual psyche may be projected through the prism outwards, resulting in a manifestation in the collective unconscious. But careful, in Jungian terms, this manifestation is not the same thing as the resonance in the individual unconscious. As discussed before, the archetype is sort of programmed into the individual psyche, so it doesn't really make sense for it to actually exist in the collective unconscious. So what we're looking for here are reflections, imprints of the archetype from the inside out. And ultimately, there is a feedback loop established between the two sides of the prism. In the case of collective versus individual unconscious, this feedback is facilitated simply by individuals participating in society. And in the case of online versus AFK, this participation is not really a given. And in fact, the early internet afforded very few opportunities for this feedback to take place, because in order to participate online, we had to act with intention. We had to send emails, write posts, etc. And indeed, the impression on, that a post on a website makes on me individually doesn't automatically reflect in how my psyche manifests online, unless I choose to actively act on it, right? So in order for this to sort of work automatically, there has to be an artificial mechanism. And in modern online communities, this mechanism is provided by recommendation algorithms.
So, and based on what we heard, one would expect that what we see on the internet right now would be sort of a regular bell curve, right? Mostly the core of it is some sort of lukewarm, middle of the road opinions and manifestations, and a couple of the most extreme sides, like BreadTube and 8chan. But there are several mechanisms of the nature of the internet that actually leaves us with quite the opposite. So, as mentioned before, one part of the equation are the underlying social media algorithms. So, for example, Instagram in particular aggressively adjusts the entire algorithm based on unconscious cues, such as how long do I look at the post, what post I look at the next, what post my friends look at, and dozens of other indicators we don't even know of. So through such recommendation algorithms, a feedback loop is established and the archetypal process is underway. And with the rise of AI, we are finding that the biases and certain problems are ingrown even much more deeply than we expected. So here you can see an example of slightly sexist undertone of the Google Translate language model. All the text on the left is without indication of a gender in Slovak. And the fact here is that it's not the algorithm which is bad. Not much can be immoral about some matrix multiplication, but it's the data set, it's the language we use when we speak about men and women, which found its way to the data set, and most of the training corpora used in the state-of-the-art research is hopelessly biased towards the old, white, cis, English-speaking healthy men. So this strong bias in the data sets, the stronger the bias is in the dataset, the stronger will be the algorithmical bias. So not only AI perpetuates the problem, but we are also amplifying it. Similar thing happened with the recent generative language model GPT-3 released by OpenAI. I won't be really getting into details here because it's a material worth of a separate talk and there's been a lot told about this already. But I assure you that you could find snippets of the text generated by this model, which are from the deepest hells of white supremacist chan boards somewhere on the internet when you prompt a question about Black people or Jews. So problem comes from the fact that we trained the model on all of the internet, and you can find many places on the internet which are neck deep with shit. So we have basically this environment, which is a battle of some sort of good and evil unwrapping right in front of our eyes, right? There is this archetypal lens, which can be a powerful weapon because it triggers deep emotional response, and we connect with the symbols on much deeper than mind level. And it can serve both as a mechanism of oppression as well as instrument of subversion.
So let's sum up what we already know about archetypes. So first, they are baked-in objects of the psyche. They emerge over long periods of time in large networks like societies. They emerge from complex phenomena. They form through the interplay of the collective and individual unconscious. And in internet culture, their emergence is facilitated by recommendation algorithms. And because of this, algorithmically controlled culture inevitably emphasizes and intensifies both the positive and the negative archetypal manifestations. But how do we identify them? How can we practically distinguish one archetype from another? And where do we sort of like draw the line between them? To do this, we need an archetypal system. Some kind of carefully constructed structure which encompasses the unconscious as accurately and completely as possible. Humans have developed many such systems with varied success. Examples include the Hindu pantheon, gods of the Yoruba people, Aesop's fables, or the canon of Catholic saints. And Jung himself established a very well-known system of 12 archetypes. But in Western tradition, there is by far the most famous archetypal system, and that is the tarot.
So the tarot cards, they are symbols in the true Jungian sense. So their meanings can't be reduced just to a few keywords. To really get the meaning of a certain card, we usually use a combination of guided meditations, ancient myths, visual symbols from various sources, and so on. And this moves us from a single pictorial alphabet that tarot appears to be, at a first glance, into a sort of complex system, which is much more than the sum of its components. And we can combine the cards and create many nonlinear dimensions of meanings. So the tarot consists of two parts. The major arcana the minor arcana resembles a classical card deck with 4 suits and court cards. And here we can see the major arcana, which is 22 cards describing the fool's journey. So according to many esoteric schools, this is a guide towards achieving the enlightenment or the Jungian individuation, finding of Holy Grail or Philosopher's Stone. So each of the cards has a deep connection towards a personal life and society alike. So as we mentioned, each of the cards is an archetype. And this means that it can be depicted in countless ways. As you can see here, these are different designs of the same card, trump number 15, the devil. Every artist uses their own visual language and their own understanding of the card, yet the meaning of the card is the same. So some schools of tarot read cards with different meanings when shown upright and reversed. And I think in our case, this is a very useful mechanism. So upright usually denotes the positive aspects or attributes of the cards, and the reversed are some sort of blockages or malfunctions of a certain aspect. So I chose the feared patriarchal card, the Emperor, because it's essentially a very simple card to interpret. In its positive sense, we can read a card as basically a masculine aspect. It is not in any way bound to male gender, but we talk about its symbolic quality as something hard, authoritative, full of power, structure, order, responsibility. And the inverse of the card can have different flavors of meaning. We either talk about the typical excessive patriarchal qualities of masculine that create oppression, inequality, excessive control, toxic masculinity, or the underdeveloped aspect of the card, which is a lack of discipline and not taking responsibility, being feeble, indecisive, the negative aspects of masculine traits in the psyche. And these are also, these more or less maps with what Jung refers to as complexes or the repressed aspects of the psyche, of the archetypes, sorry. So the tarot cards always had their place in experimental movies, counterculture, all over the place. And the cards are a living thing. And with the rise of the internet, we can see a new boom in the tarot culture as well.
Yeah. So, for example, the tarot does also suffer from the legacy of patriarchal Eurocentric culture. So there are depictions of femme versus masculine characters, the clothing, the power dynamics. They're not always representative or inclusive of non-Western, non-cishet people. Unfortunately, there is a movement in recent times to reimagine and recontextualize the symbolism of the Arcana to break down many of these structures within the Arcana.
Yeah, so we can see that the internet is really actively reclaiming these meanings of the cards. Every day, many new tarot decks pop up in my Instagram feed with really creative reinterpretation of the old symbolism. And so now we will try to look at this thing from even higher perspective, and rather than designing our own, let's say, queer tarot, which reimagining these symbols, we will try to look at the phenomena on the internet that fit into our archetype. So basically, we will try to map our feed or map the internet, which is a window into the e-culture and memes and so on through this archetypal lens. So here is a small example of a brainstorm. We juxtapose several images related to the Emperor Trump in tarot. They are intentionally mixed up. Some are the positive views on masculinity. Some are the stinky aspects of what we find happening on the internet or in the psyche. So depending on our exposure to certain role models, meme plexes, communities, and so on, our ability to tell apart which are the toxic expressions of the emperor archetype and which are the good and productive ones, which we want to incorporate into our life, we affect our inner representation and our inner understanding of this archetype. So healthily formed conception of masculinity is empowering for everyone. It gives us the ability to take initiative, to follow the goals, to stay strong in a phase of adversity, and treat people in hierarchy, even below us, with respect and dignity. And we've seen more than enough of the opposite problem in recent years all over the internet. If someone's moral compass fails, we can see all sorts of deviations in the development of the inner emperor or the inner archetype.
Yeah, and so if we understand an individual's online presence through this archetypal lens, we may well see them in a much more compassionate light. The archetypal imprints one leaves on the internet are intricately tied to the archetypal manifestations in their psyche. And so a damaged, hateful online presence may be the reflection of an arcanum flipped upside down, so to speak. So just how much more human does the tweet of some Dan 1958 look if we acknowledge the imprints of misogyny to be the archetype of the empress twisted the wrong way around? This doesn't mean that we ought to accept or tolerate toxicity in online spaces, but perhaps understanding the toxicity as the result of a complex collective process allows us to approach the individual from a place of compassion rather than dismissal. And what is more, it may help us subvert the very systems that propagate and nourish this toxicity. And this brings us back to Legacy Russell and their Glitch Feminism manifesto. In it, Russell proposes a mode of feminist anti-racist activism, which may seem strange to many traditional tech activists. So in place of this escapist activism, whereby one abandons surveillance capitalist platforms and moves to alternative, decentralized or federated spaces, hoping that a new kind of online community will eventually emerge, the glitch feminist adopts activism from within, both in the online AFK and the inside-outside dichotomies. So they do not abandon the platform where culture happens, and instead they act on the platform in ways that can ghost the algorithm. They shape their body until it isn't recognizable or categorizable. And in this sense, the glitch feminism can act with compassion and connectedness in the very spaces that encourage separation and segregation. So the archetype becomes a tool for speaking with power for leveraging the feedback loop and ultimately transforming online spaces altogether. And let's look now at a few more examples of where we see archetypes manifested in this way.
So this image struck me as a nice example. Here you can see ContraPoints in her video about opulence, and she's really channeling the Emperor's energy here. So.
So really using it sort of to achieve a certain, to deliver a message to her audience. And here we see a mapping between Jung's 12 archetypes and popular global brands. This is really funny. It's particularly relevant because in recent years, many of these brands have actually adopted this persona on social media in order to appear more relatable. And they're kind of masking the fact that the entity speaking to you is still a nebulous corporation. And one of Jung's preoccupations was also to describe the use of archetypes in storytelling. So here we see a fascinatingly accurate correspondence between characters of major fictional movies. It just works really well across so many of these stories. And perhaps the most striking kind of archetypal manifestation in our feeds are memes. Since archetypes are objects which really resonate the best in the collective unconscious, we find that the most successful of memes tend to kind of converge on an archetype, as demonstrated here by our friend, British sociologist Tim Cowlishaw. And this is an example. Suzanne Traister's Hexen 2.0 looks into histories of scientific research behind government programs of mass control, and it kind of investigates parallel histories of countercultural and grassroots movements. And Treister is using the Arcana as a sort of framework to really tell you about the very nature of the internet, how it came about, its history, through the archetypal lens. And over the past 15 years, the feeds of UK citizens have been littered with images of hilarious escapades of Boris Johnson, and nobody believed that this man would once be the most powerful in the country. But what we actually saw was a cunning politician carefully manifesting the archetype of the fool. This archetype has one powerful property: the fool is relatable. He is one of us, he is at the beginning of a journey, and the future is bright. And this is a stark contrast to the emperor or empress-like personas utilized by most mainstream politicians. So harnessing the correct archetype may well be the pathway to power. And likewise, Bernie Sanders' explosive, successful Bernie Mittens meme resonates with the archetype of the Pope, the wise but troubled man, devoted forever to interfacing between the earthly world of realpolitik and the ideological world of a potential socialist future. So in these examples, we can see how, intentionally or not, archetypes are wielded by individuals to shape our social media feeds, our relationship to power structures, and the very infrastructure of the internet. And that brings us to the workshop. So let's see. So for the workshop, you will be split into several breakout groups. I think we're going to try and do sort of 2 people at a time. And we will be working on a shared Miro board, which we will post in the chat very soon. Then it's behind a password, which is just Jung. The task for each group is to design a major arcanum based on the manifestations of its archetype. So after you enter the breakout room, we will visit you, one of us will come, and together we will draw a card on which your group will be working. So you can look into your social media feeds, you reverse image search, Giphy, Reddit, any other content aggregator, or your own collections. And you can then place screenshots, text, GIFs, whatever you fancy, into the card's frame. And you will see the templates are actually on the Miro board. You may choose to flip the card upside down, as we described, to create the reverse of the archetype and inspect its defects, repressions, complexes. And you can add as much content as you want, but you can also focus on the layout and the visual symbolism of the card as a whole. So we really want to get deep into the energy of a certain card. So that's why let's start just with 1 card per group. But if you want, you can also create more. So just send us a message here on Zoom and we will come again and we can draw another card together. And then at the end, we will reconvene after about 1 hour. Let's see how it goes. And we'll do a brief presentation from each group. At the end, we would also like to print those cards. And so there is a link in the Miro board. If you click on it, there's a Google form where you can leave your email address, and then we can get back to you to arrange this. So yeah, basically it's time to start the workshop. I don't know how we're doing for sort of participants and how we can form the groups. Lenka, do you want to?
Yeah, I think we will be two groups. One in the main room and one in a breakout room.
Sounds good.
So Lukáš is working on it.
I'll stop screen sharing for a bit. Yeah. And then do you want to screen share the Miro board yourself?
Yeah, but you need to, you still didn't
sorry.
give us the link to Miro.
Okay, I'm opening the
and I think it's good to, give the link before. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's been a bit chaotic.
You will need to broadcast the message to the breakout room because there are already people in the breakout.
All right.
I just posted it in chat.
Right. So.
All right. Does the other room have the link now, or?
I don't think so.
I posted it to everyone. I don't know, how can I send it to the breakout room?
I think Lukáš can do it.
Sounds good.
Basically, I just closed the breakout room, so everybody should be back. And we can go through there. But anyway, they should see also the general chat, then definitely.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
So the link, you need the link to the Miro board.
Yeah, shall we copy paste it again, or? I think.
Yeah, maybe just in case. Yes.
All right. So once again to everyone, right?
There it is.
I hope you see it.
Okay, I will start sharing screen so it's visible on the live stream.
Perfect.
So yeah, as you go into the breakout room, feel free to also introduce yourself to each other and stuff, and then we'll jump in and we'll draw the card for everyone.
Okay, I'm opening the breakout rooms now.
Sounds good.
Perfect. So maybe we can start with the main group.
There's the cards here.
And so I've got all the major arcanas here, and we're gonna choose one of them and gonna ask the group if they like what I've tossed. And in our case, I'm not sure if you can see.
Can you see our camera?
Well, the virtual background is in the way. Okay, now it's visible.
So this is the card Judgment. So yeah, please post it in the Miro. So Marketa and Barbara. This would be the card if you feel some sort of connection with the card, and if you would like to work on this one, we can keep it for your group. If not, we can toss another one.
I think it's okay for me. Yes.
All right, perfect. So in that case, let's drop the Judgment. And Jakob, are you gonna jump into the other room?
Yep.
I'm gonna give you the bad boys here. And
okay, can I just ask? Just to recap, what is the assignment at the moment is to find as many visual how do you call it? I mean, images that somehow are connected to this from our social media, right?
Yeah, so I would suggest first maybe reading what the judgment card stands for, what it means, and what is like the energy of the card, and then maybe try and look through, like where it is manifests in in your social media feed, where it manifests on the internet, maybe what are the personas on YouTube, what are some influencers who manifest this energy, or really like try and tap into this meaning on the internet. So maybe we can start. Who is the other person in this room?
Well, there is Marketa and Barbara.
Barbara, are you here?
Yes, hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. So
sorry to disturb, folks. Sorry to disturb. Can I be please added to the other breakout room? Because I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which account because I see the identical.
Yeah, let me change my name.
Okay.
Okay, it's the Jakub Fiala. Thank you.
All right, and he's gone. So, girls, I'm not sure how familiar with tarot you are. If you know what the judgment card is about, or
I don't know that, but I am already searching on the internet. Or do you want to explain to us?
maybe we can just read some of the descriptions.
Okay.
So I don't know if you already found some meaning. Maybe you can read it out loud.
Yeah, I don't have any right now, but I will have soon.
I'm wondering what the other group won. You can find a lot of weird pages dealing with tarot. Proper 90s designs out there. So so for example, I found this one, which has quite simple explanation there. Maybe I can paste it here for you. What are your backgrounds, guys?
I study graphic design, and that's why I get to know about this festival, because we had some like free accreditations from our school. Yeah, and actually this year I was thinking about designing my own tarot cards, but then I realized basically every illustrator did it before, so I didn't do it. But I thought it's yeah, I didn't know what to expect from this workshop, and that's the reason I usually sign in.
That's a good reason.
Nice. What about you, Barbara? No?
Sorry, I lost the screen. Yeah, I am doing a PhD on the FABU University Technology in Brno, and I'm kind of interested in the use of the archetypes in our days. You know, in a game production and other stuff. So I was wondering how you are thinking about this. So it's very interesting, I think.
Oh, nice. Thank you. So in that case, let's dip into the judgment, and maybe I can read what I found that the meaning is. And so here it says, then in the upright sense, the judgment card means judgment, rebirth, inner calling, and absolution. And in the reversed card, it's some sort of self-doubt, inner criticism, and ignoring the call. So maybe what are your thoughts about it when you see the card and you see what's happening there and you sort of see the meaning? What would be what's triggered in you? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's kind of difficult card, isn't it? This one. It's not a fool, type. That it's a leap of faith. It's not really. It's something like second chance, but or the enlightenment or something like that.
Maybe actually, you're right that this is pretty difficult card. I'm gonna ask Jakob to give me the deck back, and I'm gonna toss one more. And maybe if we like that one a bit more, we can work on something a bit more concrete, because this is a very abstract card. So feel free to look a bit more into the judgment if you find some resonances. And I'm gonna be right back with the they've got the death. That's an easy one.
Yeah.
In these times, yeah. But I am actually reading. It's just Wikipedia, but it says this card is referred to as a time of resurrection and awakening, time when a period of our lives come to an absolute end, making way for dynamic new beginnings. And I think with the whole pandemic situation, there is something relevant to it.
Yeah, right. I know what you mean. It's some sort of the big new start, or the big change
from the death card. That the death card is like nature, or that it's dying from the. This is there are differences. It's also about a new beginning, the death card, but it's different from the judgment one.
Yeah.
But where is the difference really?
So I've got another card here for you. Maybe if you want to switch, and I tossed the Empress.
No, I think we should stay with this one, because I'm thinking about the difference between the judgment and the death card, because the death is also connected to these days, and from my point of view, it's more like yeah, I'm interested in what will come from this.
All right, perfect. Then let's do the judgment. And yeah, so maybe here let's put it into the brainstorming zone down there. And I don't know, we can try different approaches. Like, for example, we could try and look at different designs of the judgment card in different decks to see what other people see there visually as Marketa is like a graphic person, maybe that will sort of resonate with her, these sort of different visual depictions. And then we can maybe collect some ideas like exactly this COVID and the new normal and the new eon, right? The end of Mayan calendar and all sorts of apocalyptic messages of what might be happening.
Like it's not like a apocalyptic message, but the first which comes to my mind was OnlyFans, like some kind of new start of thinking about people's freedom maybe, and valuing it. And also when I read some descriptions of the judgment card, there are some meanings that are also connected with OnlyFans theme, like new angle of a view, or
all right, then I think
opportunities and stuff like that. Znovu vzkříšení staré lásky.
I see. Yeah, then let's explore this topic. Maybe I'm gonna add something like this into our brainstorming zone. Wait, this keyboard is not working, is it? So
yeah, if I'm thinking about the difference, distinction within the symbolism on the death card and the judgment one, the death card is like something like a natural change, and judgment is like the last chance or another chance, the big chance to change, a call, something like that. So so how it's interesting for me to think about how these two things correlate to these days of Corona.
Yeah. That's an interesting thought as well. So I think that they both have in similar that there is some event which, you know, is happening, which might be either the introduction of OnlyFans or the Corona, which forces us to rethink our old ways, let them die, and resurrect new ones, right? So
yeah, and during the death times, you are in this like black or a dark time. You don't know what will come. And here you have some like thoughts or some call already happening somehow, you know.
Yeah.
Like idea rising, and you should grasp it somehow. That we have already some solutions which are given to us. During the death, you don't know yet.
Yeah. In the fool's journey, the judgment card comes after the death, right? So this is also some sort of narrative happening there. And yeah, so do you have maybe more thoughts, more examples of
I'm thinking about the technologies which are not, which are on the level of ideas and not used yet, like not spared, like for some solutions for better living or better some problems which can be solved by things, but it's still, not, the call is not yet here or in the places of, I don't know, politics or something. So maybe I'm thinking about example, but not having one.
If I can jump into that, we have a new participant here, Kim. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Kim.
Hello.
Hi.
How is it going?
I'm just trying to work out if I've turned up like an hour late.
Were you able to follow what was going on the live stream, maybe, or not?
No, so literally, I just turned up and I think you're all in breakout rooms. Have you been going for an hour? Did I get my time zones wrong?
Yes.
Shit.
Yes. Oh.
Okay, that explains why I'm really confused.
So sorry to hear that time zones are confusing.
It's all right. It was in my diary for the wrong time.
So maybe I mean, it will be really deep into what's happening here, but so maybe a quick crash course. We are trying to look at the meaning of the card and find where it's present in our social media feed or on the internet or in the society, or basically like finding traces of these specific cards. In our case, it's judgment, which sort of up until now we agree that it's a card which comes with a big change. It's some sort of like revelation, apocalypse, or new normal, or some sort of big change which happens. And now we are trying to track down different aspects on the internet and in the reality of exactly how this card is manifested. And our goal is, if you see on the Myra board up there, we already created with Jakub this card of Emperor, which are different aspects of masculinity on the internet. So you can see like the toxic aspects and the positive aspects of it. And we are trying to map the other cards in a similar way. So I'm not sure how much this helped without the whole introductory talk we started with, but
excuse me 1 second.
Lukasz, are you listening?
Is there a link to the Miro board?
Sorry, sure thing. Let me resend it to you.
Brilliant.
Do you see the link?
Yeah, I've got it.
Perfect.
I'm just signing in.
Perfect. So I can see there are new images popping up. What are your thoughts on these images? Who added them? Barbara or Marketa?
It was not me. It was Marketa probably.
Huh? What?
Oh, that you edited these two images. So
Yes.
I would like to hear the thinking you're following there.
Yeah, let me just formulate it for myself in English. It's like the judgment card is about some change, and that's the first meme for me, because like the idea was that everyone wants to change something, but sometimes it's not even possible, or sometimes it's really hard to find the right solution. And so this meme is kind of suitable, I think. And the second one is more like a judging one, but it's just I think I don't think about it in such a complex way how Barbara does. These are just like the first ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good thinking of sort of seeing that, you know, the card in it contains this future possibilities, and maybe the question is whether this card is already one chosen possibility, or whether it's more you know, like still waiting. I don't know how you feel about that, because for me on that picture it seems that like someone already made some choice regarding something, you know. It's
Like in the first picture.
in the card itself.
Yeah, in the card itself. Okay.
Because the angel is pretty like confidently blowing the trumpet, and seems like he's already on the march somewhere.
Yeah, it feels to me that it's like solution you didn't know that you already know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I come up with a solution which was already here, or always here.
Mm-hmm.
And it was somehow simple, and you didn't see it, and now you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this like the situation.
Yeah, so it's more like the meme with this guy who shows you whereas there is always the first video where somebody doing something really stupidly and too complicated, and then there is this black guy who shows you the solution, which is much easier and like without these complications. You know what I mean?
Not really, but yeah, it sounds that it can be like this. Yeah.
I will find it and edit it.
So
where we have
So I, for example, found this one card where you can see also that there is this motive of being raised from dead. Maybe, you know, like it can again lead us to thinking of judgment as what happens when one thing ends and the other thing is just starting, you know. Maybe we could even think about this card in a sense of some equality movements, right? Where we are trying to kill the old models of thinking, and we've got the angel with the new truth coming and sort of blowing it up into the world of how things should be, you know.
Yeah, I do agree with such a point of view.
I don't know, Kim, did you manage to jump on board with our thinking?
Yeah, I'm probably not quite in Mimi enough territory, but I went down a Metatron rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
Hence Alan Rickman as an angel. And I'm just beginning to think about the kind of the sleepers waking sort of, you know, the reanimation, the kind of come on, wake up. You know, we've got the nice Drake stuff in there, but I think there's probably some more kind of, you know, coming to your senses stuff that I can find. So I'm just going to go and have a think about the imagery that comes up for that for me.
Yeah, that's also very, very interesting aspect of the card. Exactly, like raising from death, coming to your senses, you know, realizing that what you've been doing up until now maybe was wrong, or that we were doing it all wrong as a society and that we need some change. So yeah, that's an interesting aspect of the card. So, for example, what might be interesting, here I found some very, very visually stimulating picture. Let's say it's pasting in, which shows the both aspects of the card, and especially like if we look at the reversed meanings, here we can see that it's a lack of self-awareness and failure to realize the learned lesson and self-loathing and self-doubt. So maybe to dip really deeper into the sense of the card, we can also think of what happens if, you know, if the judgment fails, if it's not the right judgment, or if what happens if the judgment does not happen, you know. So I can see there some sort of situations which have a potential to be really transformative, but it doesn't really deliver, right? And maybe this whole new normal, which is happening with Corona, and you know, whether the question after the pandemic is over, whether it's going to deliver the things which we hope could be improved due to this. I love that XKCD strip which appeared there. All right, I'm gonna let you brainstorm. A couple more minutes. I'm gonna connect with Jakub and check how we're on time.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh,
Hi, Kim.
hello.
Yeah, we decided to swap with Karin, so we both check in on the two teams. How are we doing?
Okay. I think I'm catching up on an hour's worth of missed content.
Oh yeah. There's 1 hour time zone sort of difference that is small enough to overlook, and then yeah.
I suspect that I can't remember when I booked my tickets if it went in before the clocks changed as well, so it might be a clock change thing. Time zones, man, they're so hard.
And the summertime is making the mess.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I a huge respect for working on Judgment. That is not an easy card to depict. Trying to think about what sort of epic comebacks that have happened in the recent years. Who sort of like just came back in a big way. Bum bags, but that I'm not sure if it belongs on the card. Do you all watch a lot of YouTubers?
No, I'm not a massive YouTube person, unfortunately.
Just because when it comes to Judgment, there is a leftist sort of YouTuber called Philosophy Tube.
Oh yes.
Do you know them?
I know of them, yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant, and so she transitioned recently, and had the most amazing coming out video where David Bowie's Black Star started playing, and she hired an actor who looked like her before transition, but really, really like to the point. And then that actor was playing her before transition and telling her story, and then they switched, and then sort of she came into the room to the while Black Star was playing, and I thought that was really sort of like the reckoning, like the finally all these little cues and all these little sort of like allusions to it's going to happen. Some people were sort of saying that they expected it already, And suddenly it all comes together, and sort of she came out of this door, and it was just absolutely, it was one of the most emotional things I've ever seen on YouTube. Really great stuff. So I've added a little picture as well. Definitely recommend watching that.
So what happens now after there is enough images?
I think as we've got enough images, we can slowly start to place them in the frame. So I'm going to remove the old image from here. So there's different approaches. What I've done in the example card in the Emperor was I tried to have the same structure as the original card, which you can't see here, but there's sort of the man on the throne. So I like build a throne out of the different images and memes. So maybe we can do something like that, but we also don't have to follow the same visual structure. But it would be good to sort of put it in there in some way that, like, in itself, the placement of the images has some kind of logic to it.
So we've got a proper catabasis thing going on in this card, haven't we? The sort of, angelic summoning versus the earthly realm, physical realm coming alive at the bottom.
Right.
So it feels like we want the dirty in the lower half and the pure in the top half.
Yeah, totally. It's really a vertical axis going on there. Well, the crow of judgment is definitely in disguise, right? I might even already put it up there. By the way, one trick that I learned when making this card is if you can, in Google Images, you can select image color transparent, and then you get images which have a transparent background, which are really nice for Miro, because then you can kind of make collages really easily.
Oh.
I really like the icons of the done folder and the rubbish bin. And the macOS rubbish bin. That's brilliant.
Oh, hang on a second.
Can I ask who? What does it mean? The video thumbnail with woman not woken up by man's penis.
I can't help you with that one. Wasn't me.
Yeah, it was me. Yeah, yeah. I think it's the card about waking up or something.
Ah.
So, and that this is interesting. I found it is performer or artist who uploads on a Pornhub the non-pornographic videos like this, for example, and like I like it.
Right. Oh, that's cool. So yeah, I guess we can go for the next sort of 10, 15-ish minutes. The presentation shouldn't be that long because it's only two groups. So yeah, maybe it's a good time to just start putting things up into the card as well, organizing as you see fit.
Miro, I still hate you.
It's pretty bizarre to think that we might not need to use it at some point.
Yeah. It's it's both beautiful and a massive pain in the bum. It's just I went to an extraordinary. Lance Weiler did a whole piece of sort of online theatre. It was entirely organized using a Miro board, which was, yeah, quite a thing.
Amazing. Yeah. I just think that it would be really nice to make some paper cutouts and like cardboard prototypes, and just like
actual physical stuff.
Yeah, just glue stuff together. I think in this case, especially, it'd be a bigger pain in the ass to assemble all that material. But then you can really like glue stuff, and you know, it'd be really good fun.
What else do we want on there? I do quite like the galaxy brain. That does feel like a
yeah, that one's amazing.
Brilliant. Ooh, that was a bit too big.
I'm definitely putting the rubbish bin up there somewhere.
Is it possible to crop? Yes. There is a grumpy queen. That's amazing.
Yeah, love it. I think Alan Rickman should go somewhere up top.
Yep.
Floating up there.
Well, do we want something with 4 hoops and a million eyes?
Why not?
Oh, come on. Biblically correct, angels. Oh, here we go.
Actually, I'm really glad we got Brittany on there, because what's happened to sort of her, how she's being talked about in media is really remarkable. Like, you know, she used to be the sort of face of the establishment, but now that the story of sort of what happened to her has come out in the whole Free Britney movement, it's like she completely reinvented herself to this sort of, I don't want to say feminist icon, but you know, it's like something.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of when you were talking about, you know, the transformation and who's transformed themselves, and it was the judgment. So I was like thinking about on the card that was posted, the lack of self-awareness, failure to learn lessons, self-doubt, self-loathing. Right. That just felt very like sort of influencer to me, and I was trying to think who's a kind of social influencer. Right. And then it felt like the old Britney versus the new Britney becomes a symbol for this kind of renewal, awakening.
Absolutely.
Element.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Although I am massively stuck on. Oh man, a biblically accurate Doge angel. I want this. Oh, holy shit. Zoom's probably not picking it up, but we have thunder here.
Ooh. Oh, the Grumpy Queen is so good.
Oh man. Ruth Bader Ginsburg OnlyFans. That's a thing, right?
Yeah. I love this. It's such a good card. Well done, everyone. So I'm gonna run to Karin, who's in the other room, and just ask her how they're doing. But I think we might even be able to slowly wrap up. Feel free to just change things still. I'll be back in a sec. All right, so I've told the other group, I think we can close the breakout room and reconvene, if that's okay. No, Lukasz should do that.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Jakub,
Mm-hmm.
there is someone in the waiting room, and I don't know, it's quite late, but does it make sense?
Well, let's let them in, I guess. I don't know. They can watch the presentation, but actually it doesn't really make sense because they won't get to participate in anything.
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know what the protocol is in this case.
Well, there is no protocol. Just improvisation.
All right. Well, welcome back, folks, from the breakout room. Really excited to see what you've done with the Arcanum of Death. So yeah, I'll just wait for Karin to come back, and then we can do a little presentation. We've got 18 minutes till the end, so that should be good. And then basically, yeah, so you can just, one of you or more of you can just tell us sort of how you interpreted the card, and what kind of, just describe what kind of stuff you've added, and maybe if we have any questions, or we can sort of have a little chat about each card. So
what happened with judgment here?
It's pretty dense, isn't it?
It looks exciting.
Yeah. So why don't the death group start and explain to us a little bit how they interpreted this archetype.
I think you're muted.
Yep.
Brania.
Okay, so I'm only alive who stands here from the dead group, but I can explain everything. we sort of agreed that the discard at the beginning it struck us as usually as the quite hard and negative thing, but soon we realized that when we flipped it like on the head and tried to reverse it, it's much more negative, because we investigated that the death is quite positive card, even if it doesn't appear so at the beginning, because it means change, revolution, and reset, as we found out. So the goal what we tried to achieve was to present this card as the positive thing, to like make the better PR for that card, because it means the new beginning. We tried to mine like positive meaning out of the archetype of the death. So there are the symbols of shift, what is Elon Musk and rockets going to Mars, and regrowth, like plants from ashes, and also something what is very natural, like tectonical changes in the earth. And on the background there is like reset screen, what means that we are cleaning up the system to make a new beginning or a restart. And there is also a revolutionary element with the hand gesture, and the card has number 13. So from out of the 22 tarot cards, what means it's something about the half or middle of the number row. So that's it, I guess. And I hope it's more positive than just that skeleton image.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like how you use this this astronaut sort of character, because that's also a form of a rider. So it brings that sort of dynamic aspect. And I remember when I was in your group, we were talking about like what the horse symbolizes, that there is also this sort of dynamicism, this movement implied in it. And yeah, like, you know, in the original rider weight card here, it's got a lifted leg, so really feel the movement in one direction. And I think you really done that there really well.
Yeah, I really like as well how it's basically putting upside down the anthropocentric view on the thing as well, you know, like the humans and the technology and the most recent things we are so preoccupied with are at the very bottom.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the nature, which is here for a bit longer and it's a bit bigger, it's like in the middle, and the geological time is actually at the top, you know. So I really like this touch to the card there.
If anyone's seen the movie Koyani Squatsi, it's kind of the reverse, right? But it's just this fantastic movie about like changes on Earth. There is no voice, no speech, and it's just images. And yeah, it actually goes the other way. So it ends with civilization, and it starts with these sort of elemental forces of nature. So reversing that, I think that's a really interesting thing. It kind of also links up to climate change and this sort of notion of the breakdown and inability to stop this elemental force.
Yes, that rivers was also part of the approach, because like you said already, that the rockets aren't like the top of the everything, but maybe it's beginning, and the theories of panspermia and stuff like that goes into play, and another possible interpretation of everything. But yes, that's it.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Okay. Any other questions about death from the other group as well? Anything to point out? If not, then let's look at judgment. Who wants to tell us about this fantastic card?
Wow, it looks like you really got into the meaning. So who's gonna take over?
Yeah. I saw Marketa was unmuting.
Yeah, but I wanted just to ask Barbara if she can talk about it at all.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult for me because I think we are all enjoying the stuff that happened, during, on the card visually and the meanings there. So I'm not sure if I can. Maybe somebody else.
Yeah, like I also think it talks a bit for itself. Like maybe it's not really necessary to talk about it.
Yeah, but okay. I think I've been thinking about the difference between the meaning of the card, the death card, like something what is dying naturally, something what should die and raise up, and the judgment card. It's more like the call, something that we follow because it's here, and maybe that we came up with something which was always here, but we didn't saw it before. So maybe this was my impression from it.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, one thing maybe to point out is there is really this sort of, we noticed there was really this vertical axis on this card. So we tried to follow that also with the way we organized the...
So why is Brittany up there with all the angels?
Well, this is actually something we were talking about at the end, is that Brittany has sort of passed through judgment and transformed herself as a personality in a really quite remarkable way. So we put her up there because she sort of made the the transition.
Nice. What about the folder? What does the folder at the right bottom, the done folder, means?
Yeah, that's I see it as also in the way of rebirth or reborning. Like firstly, when you finish some project, you put it to some folder like this, and then to the trash bin. I think it's not like the internet thing, but it's still somehow connected.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that.
I see. And what is this? What are these people stuck in the ceiling?
I'm not sure, but maybe it's like the overview, like when you when nothing changes, but only your place of view is like it's like when you know just a little bit more, but it allows you to watch the whole situation that makes you confused maybe in like from the different point of view, and it helps a lot.
It reminds me of this trope in Tolkien's books where every time they're sort of in a forest or something, they always get lost because it's a dark forest and there's no paths, or the paths are changing all the time and stuff. And then and the problem is they can't see anything. They're always only they're enclosed by the trees. So every time it's like someone gets to climb the tree and then they like peek out from above, and then they're like, oh, that way,
Yeah.
It's really nice. Yeah, it's beautiful.
I really like how that XKCD guy shouting through the megaphone is reminiscent of the angel Gabriel with his trumpet on the original card.
Totally. and he's sort of like pointing the megaphone down at the people,
Yeah, as well.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Oh, the Doge. the thousand-eyed Doge on top. It's really amazing.
All right. I think this has really a lot of complex meaning. I mean, Judgment is a very complex card. This definitely wasn't an easy pick, but yeah, I think you tapped into some really interesting narratives there.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, I think that's it. I think we can probably wrap up. Thank you so much for participating. It's been absolutely brilliant. We still got about 7 minutes, so if there are any questions or if there's anything you want to discuss, also in relation to the talk we did before, yeah, we're definitely here.
Maybe we can share the form for sending us.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not sure if we have it here. But
Yeah, it's on the very last slide. Let's actually share the last slide as well. So in the Miro board, you'll see there's like a useful links section, and there you can find it as well. It's just if you leave us your email, we can get back to you, and what we'll do is we'll then print out these cards, just as regular tarot cards, and we'll send the 3 of them to you. We'll also include the Emperor, and maybe we'll make a few more as well if we fancy it. Or feel free to make more and send them to us. It would be absolutely lovely if we could actually build up like a full major Arcana deck from these. That would be great.
yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for that. And there is also a little field in the form for feedback. So if there's anything you want to tell us, we would really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you. It was great. I enjoyed, really.
Really appreciate that.
Happy
Thank
to
you.
hear that.
Thank
So
you.
I think maybe we can share this contact form also on the YouTube. So we could get feedback also from people who are watching. If someone maybe wants to get involved, create some card with us, or send us some thoughts and ideas, we could share both of them.
That
We
sounds
also compiled a tiny, it's not tiny, but a reading list of things we've been referencing and looking into podcasts on this topic we've been enjoying, and so on. So some good juicy content.
Yeah. So I just posted it in the chat as well, for anyone to peruse. Yeah. Any questions or?
Maybe, do you know about this guy, Thomas Scoville? That he made this Silicon Valley tarot, which seems to me to be very similar to what we have done. I will show you it. It's just a reproduction, but it's a tarot in the language of IT guys.
Wow.
This is great.
So maybe you can find it somewhere and have a look.
This is great. It's
in this food magazine. Maybe you probably don't know that it's in Czech.
Oh, cool.
But I will type the name in the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah, please send us this resource. It looks great.
That's so good. Yeah, we're actually very interested in making these different tarot cards, tarot decks. We've already released one, and we have one on the way, which each are made in different ways with different concepts. So this is definitely up our street. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you, guys. It was really amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for participating. I think we created some great stuff. I really enjoyed it. And feel free to reach out on our Instagram or Discord, or I think we will reshare all the information in the Discord channel, all the links and everything, so we can stay in touch. and maybe work on something more later.
All right, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
sorry to rock up an hour late.
The time zones.
Time zones. The hardest problem. Thank you.
Thank you for joining anyway.